everyone, it's actually my first video back, well, this year, so I want to say Happy New Year, everybody. I am still drinking my tea from my Christmas mug, which is funny, but today's tutorial is very spring themed, and I just want to share this really lovely worksheet that I've just designed for you guys. And the reason I did it, well, I'm designing a new spring workbook. It's almost ready, so I thought I would just take one page out because it's so lovely. I love lettering quotes, and sometimes it can be really hard. So what I've done, I've made some guidelines here. So when you have a line and when you're tracing something, I think it's just so much easier to do, and you can actually focus on your technique a bit more. So, and obviously it also sinks in as you're doing it because you have the reference, right? And hopefully the next time you do your own quote freehand, you can remember this composition. So it's all about the muscle memory. And I thought we could just practice these two lovely quotes and maybe do a little daffodil drawing that you can also trace with a fine liner if you like. But yeah, it's just a really lovely 20-minute practice session. Something really nice to do this weekend, I think. Well, I really enjoyed it. So you can print your worksheet. I'll add a link in the description. So have a look, and then you can just refer to this video if you need to. You know, some of you might be already at a level where you don't have to watch it, but if you wanted to have a peek and just maybe have a bit of guidance, I've also recorded the video with a few tips helping you to get through this. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you find it relaxing. Do let me know how you're getting on, and if you would like to share, I would really love to see. So head to Calligraphy Beginners Facebook group. It's a group I run. I always try to share resources and inspire people in there. We have lots of lovely letterers in there, so it's never boring. If you join the group, I'll accept you and you can show us your results. So let's dive into this together. So I'm just getting my workspace ready, and I'll be using this Tombow for the Nasugi brush pen. I really love this pen. It's really good for beginners. It's really kind of easy to start learning with because you do get a lot of control with this pen. It can be a bit hard if you're using like a medium tip brush pen, so I highly recommend finer tip pens like this. And I've printed this on some smooth paper, and I'm just starting it. So if you haven't warmed up, obviously your first line might be a little bit wobbly. Don't worry about it. So I'm just doing the first line, and notice how slowly I'm going, how I'm separating every shape of the letter. So I'm doing the first part of the letter H, stopping, doing the next part, which includes 3 strokes, stopping, doing a C shape of the letter A or O shape, and doing the next shape again. And I'm just kind of breaking each letter down into shapes, and it's really helpful because you do get to pause in between. If you are completely new to this, I would highly recommend practicing the basic strokes first. Sorry, my dog is snoring. I don't know if you can hear her. So the basic strokes of calligraphy, and I have a really lovely free course on this. It's called Calligraphy Foundations course, and you'll just get to practice every single shape many times before you start putting them into letters. Now the second line is really fun. We're starting with this really long entry stroke, so see if you can keep that pressure really light throughout this first little tail of the letter W. And notice how much bounce there is in this word. We're bouncing down the letter N, T and R. Notice how they stretch below the baseline and how we're extending the last stroke of the letter R all the way to the side. Let's do the cross line and dot the letter I before we start the third line. And again, I'm trying to kind of slow down. I'm reminding myself to slow down, and I do tend to rush, and I know how hard it is to do it slowly. It's literally taken me years, I think, to really try and slow down. And once I did, it's really paid off. So again, notice if you can do those last strokes of each letter a little bit slower. We want to be really mindful of those connections, of those connection strokes. We want to try and keep them thin And if you need to do it even slower, just try and see how that feels. Ending each word with a little exit stroke, like a longer line, just so it looks a bit more complete. Let's do the word would. Now, this is all a little bit tight here. So normally in a quote, we would focus on the most important words and make them bigger. Like here we've done the word winter. We're going to do pleasant, quite big, spring. Whilst the words like would or not or be, or if or no, they're like quite small because they're not like very important in a phrase. So we can definitely feel that. Everything's a bit more narrow, a bit more squished here. So it might feel a bit challenging. So again, try to take it slowly. And this fourth line is a bit more spaced out, so we definitely have a bit more breathing room here, which feels nice. And these are some shorter words, and we can definitely make them a bit bigger. This last line is quite important in a phrase, I think. It's got some beautiful words. The word pleasant just looks really nice in calligraphy, so we can definitely space the letters out a little bit more, make them a bit bigger if we like. And I'm really just reminding myself again to slow down. And I'm going to sound like a broken record because it is so important and it's so easy to forget to go slowly. Calligraphy wants to be slow. It's a slow art. We don't really rush it. We are constructing each letter out of shapes. It's very different to writing, like cursive writing. The writing we know, the writing we've learned at school, so it's very different, and it can take time to change that habit and that thinking about it as well. Lovely. Okay, so we're going to also mention the author. It's a really, really beautiful quote. I really love it. It's actually in public domain, so I always try to pick quotes that are in public domain. So here I'm just doing this like capital letter writing, and I'm still applying a bit of pressure as I go down, but I'm not being like really strict about it. I just want it to look very kind of neat and simple. Lovely. So that was like a really lovely bouncy style that we practiced there. Now take your time, of course. It might take a bit longer for you. Now the second quote, for the second one, I'm going to use this lovely Pentel brush sign pen. I've added some links for you, some pen links in the description, so you can always have a look. And I'm going to use this green colour. It's really pretty. It's like an olive green. And this second quote is much more kind of simplistic looking, a bit more classic looking. So you can see these two different calligraphy styles, and they do differ a lot. So here we're going to focus on keeping everything on a baseline, really nice and neat. Okay, so everything is a little bit more narrow here, I would say, just for the sake of keeping it very like elegant looking. We're not rounding the letters much. We're not rounding the letters as much as before. Everything's definitely a bit more tight. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. So again, it is not like a very big scale calligraphy, so it can feel a bit challenging. But also, I think it's very good to practice small scale lettering because it is harder to do. It is easier to letter big, which you probably know if you've been practicing. So practicing it in small writing is quite productive, I think. And notice how here we're kind of missing some of the entry tails. We're also not really guiding our exit strokes, like here all the way to the side. We're kind of focusing on them going upwards a bit more rather than to the side. So see how that feels. But yeah, the most important thing here is that everything stays on the baseline. We're not really bouncing anything down as before. So notice how everything is just kind of neatly sitting on the line. Every letter, every shape is touching that line. And it's a bit longer as well. And I really love this quote. It's so beautiful, and I couldn't resist, and so I drew a little daffodil as well. I just love these spring words: daffodils, golden, pleasant, wondered. These are all like really beautiful words that I really enjoy lettering. They look really good on paper. Okay, so, and here too, see if you can like identify some of the important words. We have a lot of filler words here, like as or a or all or when. But I think the words saw, golden, daffodils, wondered, they can definitely be a bit bigger. So if you try this freehand any other time, you know, you can always try and experiment with the scale of each word as well. But in this style, I think we're kind of trying to keep everything fairly similar, so it all looks nice and neat. All right, we are slowing down. Notice how here, in this fourth line, on this line, everything is a bit more space. So the words are actually a bit more space, a bit more apart. And that's just because these words are a bit shorter, so we do happen to have a bit more room. So we always kind of need to assess, and that's why quote lettering takes planning. Like you would never probably sit down and just do it from the top of your head. You definitely want to use a pencil, just write it out a few times, decide how many lines you would have in your quote. So I've kind of done all the hard work here for you, although, you know, there's still a lot of work to trace this, and my hand actually did get a bit tired doing this, so perhaps I should have gone a bit slower, even more slow. And it is quite a long quote, and doing both of these together can feel like you've really done a lot of lettering, which you know is true. So it is a very productive session, I would say. Lovely. And here we are. We're just going to do, whenever you get to this, you can pause the video as well to kind of catch up if you want to do it together with me in real time. But yeah, golden daffodils can definitely be a bit bigger. We are spacing the letters a little bit more here. I try to keep my loops fairly narrow, which I think looks really good in this style in particular. And just notice how the exit stroke here on the letter N especially is quite round. So we're kind of finishing the letter in a U shape rather than a V shape, which is something we do a lot in bouncy calligraphy. So here everything's a little bit more round. Here comes the letter F. We got a double F, which can feel really hard. So see if you can pick up a little bit of momentum as you go down in the letter F. Sometimes I love doing my downstrokes quicker and then slowing down as I go up. I find that really helps the rhythm of my calligraphy. So see if you can apply this tip to your lettering, perhaps. There we go. So I'm just gonna trace the author. So I'm doing the same style as before, so for the previous quote. And then if you wanted to, you could, and if you have a fine liner, I highly recommend that you get it out and let's maybe draw the daffodil. So you can trace it, but I'll show you like each part the way I did it, so you can kind of do it yourself. And if you wanted to try this freehand, I highly encourage you to do so. So I'm going to use this Unipin fine liner. I love this pen. I'll add the link for this as well. So this was the first part I did. So I started with the center, and then I did this little U shape kind of underneath. And then I focused on doing the middle. So just some lines and little circles. Just try to make that kind of center of the flower quite busy looking. And then we would do leaves, and just think of a daffodil and try to do like a similar shape. So the leaves are quite kind of pointy at the end, but they're also quite wide looking and big, surrounding that center that we just drew. So see if you can incorporate that. And then I'm going to do this little connecting, I'm sure there's a name for it, but I don't know what it is, like the base of the flower. And then I'm going to carry on with the stalk, like a double line for a stalk. And then the leaves, the daffodil leaves are really kind of big and wide. They kind of look like really flat as well. And I might actually do another one because sometimes they all kind of come out from the bottom a bit more. You can also do a bit of shading. So with really thin, like really light pressure, you could just do a couple of lines in each petal. You can also add a bit of texture. to the center of the flower, and I'm just doing another leaf there, and I might extend the stalk a bit more. But there we go. If you wanted to add a bit more color, I would probably say that you want for this to dry, but I'm just being brave, and I'm just going to do this really messy coloring with my brush pen. I found this lovely yellow color, and I'm being very messy. I should have waited for this to dry, so I'm just avoiding those lines. That's why I'm not like doing it properly. But I think actually this like distressed look also looks really good, so I quite like it. There's some white areas there as well, and I'm actually thinking, oh, I need to grab like an orange. You know how daffodils have that like egg yolk color center? Oh, I really love that. And I'm going to show that with like a nice orange pen in the middle. And the leaves, I'm just going to grab a brush pen. You can use any pens or even pencils to color this in. I'm just going to do a few strokes there to add a bit of green. And there we go. I think it looks really lovely. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm just going to add some dots as well. This is really pretty. I hope this was a really pleasant practice, and I hope you found it really relaxing. And as I said, I am designing this as part of a bigger project. So I'm teaching 2 really lovely kind of intermediate level classes in spring. So there'll be a brush calligraphy workshop and a dip pen workshop. And if you're interested, just drop me an email or head to my website, and I'll add the link here as well. You'll find all the info you could book on, and I would really love to see you in this live online class. You'll also get a kit with the class, which is amazing. So you'll have like a box of inspiration literally arrive to your doorstep. You'll be all ready to practice. You'll have some beautiful color pens and inks, and it's just really exciting. I thought I'd mention it in case you'd like to keep practicing.